Hey everybody, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be speaking about the Total War Warhammer 40K developer roundtable slash sort of interview done by CA. It's up on their channel. Throughout the video I'll have clips up here and screenshots just kind of while I speak about certain topics. I want to say straight off the bat from watching this interview, and I'm trying to save you the time of having to go watch it because it is 30 minutes long, so this should be much shorter and much more condensed. The host just felt extremely awkward, so I would honestly save your time watching it. I don't know what it was. The guys answering the questions felt sort of semi-confident, but the host just felt extremely awkward asking the questions. It felt like a stage interview, and I know it was a stage interview, but Jesus, they really could have done a much better job of kind of letting it naturally sort of seep in. On top of that, the chairs just looked extremely uncomfortable, and I'm definitely gonna have a picture up with them. I mean, like guys, get the lads a couch. I mean, it was so uncomfortable looking. The guys looked so awkward, constantly shifting in their seats, just trying to find a comfortable position. I was like, genuinely, please, like, we're trying to watch an interview here, and all I'm thinking is get these guys some comfortable seating, please. And the whole comments were feeling that as well. But anyway, moving on from that, I want to say, like, it's been confirmed now through multiple interviews that there's only going to be four factions: Space Marines, Ashram Militarum, Orcs, and Eldari. I'm extremely concerned about that straight away because for me, it's clear the Orcs are the big bad, and they state that in this interview. And I just think you need something else. Like, you need a Chaos or something. Like, how have Chaos not been put in this? Like, I understand they'll be the first DLC, and if they're not the first DLC, I think we need to start getting the pitchforks out. And I'm not a Chaos player or a particular Chaos fan. I didn't play as them a lot in Warhammer, Total War, any of the three games, and yeah, generally I wouldn't play them on the tabletop, so I'm not a big fan of them. But I just feel like the fact that you do not have them in this game is just a huge miss, especially when Dawn of War hasn't put them in either. It just seemed like a huge miss for me, and only having four factions at launch, I don't think it's enough, especially when you've got like Space Marines and Ashram Militarum. And again, they state in this interview that work together at times, or seem to be somehow intertwined. Like, you're helping the Ashram Militarum in battles and things. They make these kind of statements. So I'm like, am I on the same side as Ashram Militarum? I mean, I should be, but that's the point. So now you're really playing as three. Now there's three factions on launch, and I'm going. Obviously you can play as Space Marine part of the Empire or the Ashram Militarum part, and I get that they're kind of different entities, but I'm just a bit like, again, that doesn't really feel like that's four factions to me. It really feels like it's three and a half. So I'm quite concerned from that aspect of not being enough playable options. And also, if the Orcs are the big bad, are you not going to be bored within a year or a few months? Like, not even within a year, 6 months of just fighting against the Orcs constantly all the time. I think that's a huge concern. And I'm interested to see how this gameplay is. Or, like, look, when we see a few campaigns and a bit more from them, maybe I'll have a different opinion. But right now, that's something that's concerning me. And I really think there should be there should be five or six different factions in the game on launch, in my opinion, not four. I don't think four is enough. Not when you're not going to do multiple iterations like we got to see with Total War 1, Total War 2, Total War 3. If it's going to be one game, I think you need to have more factions on launch, and it doesn't seem like they're going to. So that is really concerning for me. I want to break down now the playstyles of each of the factions that was discussed. So we've got Space Marines first, which seems like you're going to be playing as a limited number of small squads, and like each person's life is really going to matter because it's going to be hard to replace them, which is quite realistic to what Space Marines would be or how they're depicted. And it's going to offer a fresh style of play, whatever that means. It's kind of, again, they've left some stuff vague, and of course the game still has a year left in development, so I guess they don't want to say things that are like set in stone. Next, we have Ashram Militarum, which they described as the most traditional Total War faction. So if you're looking for more of a traditional playstyle, you build up resources. Sorry, I actually have notes here and I've accidentally hidden them a little bit. Build up resources, supply, infrastructure, buildings. Your traditional sort of Total War build up, and you build up your armies and go and fight. And you'll kind of have the more normal numbers that you would see in Total War. With Space Marines, you're running around with much smaller squads, so it'll fit into more of a Dawn of War style from what I've seen. Whereas, Ashram Militarum see more into that horde big 2010, 3, 4,000, 5,000 battles you want to see from Total War. Orcs, again, very similar, except of course they're going to sort of have like some sort of horde mode is what they described, or the WAS you might call it, where you build momentum throughout it. They seem to very much focus on that kind of idea. And again, the infrastructure, building up resources, so similar to the Ashram Militarum, but with more of a momentum vibe to their playstyle, which makes total sense and is the most on point they've got with any of this so far. And then finally we have the Eldari, and they said they play totally different to any other faction they've ever made, and they really seem to hinder on this hit and run sort of using the webway to bounce around and hit and do these hit and run tactics over the galaxy and like on planets and stuff. So I don't really know how that's going to work as a fun playstyle. Like, I understand, again, it is probably lore accurate. The Eldari have a very limited number of people. Each life they lose is really significant. So, because it takes years to train them back in and stuff, and years to rebreed them and all these things. So I totally get it from a playstyle point of view. But looking at it, like, from a realistic playstyle point of view, but looking at it from an actual gameplay perspective, it might get a bit boring. Again, have to wait and see more to see that. But right now, I'm not really thrilled to hear it. I mean, the craft world is going to be an off-mat setup piece where you recruit and build infrastructure for the Eldari, and I'm like, so can we go and fight the craft worlds? Or like, I'm a bit confused. They didn't really get into all that, and hopefully they will later. It also seems like your goals are not to conquer planets or worlds. Your goals are to protect the galaxy. There was a lot of this protect the galaxy talk about the Eldari. Like, you will be going off and doing missions to protect the galaxy and stop catastrophes, essentially. Again, all very vague and leaves me with some questions. And generally, I don't know if it sounds that interesting to me. Like, you've gone for this new, different style, but like, I want to hop in and conquer I want to play Aldari. I don't know if I want to be jumping around the place, hitting and running. Maybe that's cool if I'm progressing, but if the progress is just me saving the universe, I guess that's cool. But I'm saving the universe who's just full of AI, so I don't know how cool that is. But yeah, look, I mean, it could be interesting. So that's kind of the 4 factions and how they're going to play. That's what we got from the initial part of the interview. Next, we moved into planet warfare, where you start fighting on a planet by capturing a staging point, i.e. like a hive city. So you might go in, you do your first battle, you've captured a hive city. Now you fight over different regions of the planet, which are all individual battles or objectives, they said. So you're probably like, maybe you land in, you capture a hive city, and then they're like, hey, we need to go capture this industrial plant over here because that's going to supply us with weapons. And maybe you go do that. And that seems to kind of be the vibe of it. Again, we didn't get to see much from it, but, and I'll be saying that a lot throughout this interview because it was just a 26-minute interview. So, we only got so much, but these are the general gist of what we got. It says you can also destroy planets entirely, only in extreme cases if you're like, the Imperium and stuff, because obviously destroying a planet, you don't want to do that because you're losing resources and humans and so on. And essentially, yeah, you're just losing a massive amount of resources. So they said it's only extreme cases where you'll be allowed to destroy a planet, but there is a button and you are allowed to press it in some circumstances. So you want to blow up planets, that seems like it's going to be an option. So get excited for that. That's all we got on Planet Warfare. So not a crazy amount, but just a little tidbits. Then we got fleets. It didn't speak about fleet combat, and I watched the interview like 3 times, and so I could have, I will say this, if I've missed anything, there's other people, I've seen people put up 50-minute videos, 40-minute videos on this interview. Go check them out. I'm trying to keep it short and simple, or as simple as I can, but, don't just focus on me, because other people might have spotted things that I missed. And I am trying to do all of this in one take, so again, I might miss something here too. But the fleets, anyway, they transport troops around the regions on the planets. Makes sense. They transport troops in between planets. That's grand. You expect that from the fleets. They also offer off-map bombardment, both campaign and in battle. I'm not sure what the campaign means. Maybe you're going to be able to like bomb cities and stuff and damage the infrastructure. In battle, you're going to be able to use a bombardment thing, much like you would maybe with a spell or something in Total War Warhammer. You can also, if you have troops on your ship and you've left them there in the reinforcements phase, which I will come back to later because the reinforcement bit's quite interesting, you can drop pod them in during the battle and they can destroy buildings and stuff. That seemed really, really cool. I'm really excited to see that and how that works in game. We've seen little tidbits, and again, I'm sure I'll have the clip up here, but that looks really cool and really, really interesting. So excited to see how that works. We've then got space, which has anomalies when you're traveling in between planets. There's going to be anomalies. It didn't really state what they were going to be. Maybe you just see like a weird thing, and I don't know. I mean, again, we'll have to see more on that specifically, but cool to know that it's not just click button travel. There stuff can happen in between traveling to planets. Maybe an asteroid storm comes in. Who knows? But I like that there's a little bit of variability there. Then we've got each system seems to be a campaign itself. And by that, I mean, it seems like you might battle for 5, 10, 20 planets. And once you've won or completed a certain amount of those planets, you then own that section of space. And that's a campaign. And then it's like, hey, you can go start another campaign by like, going and conquering this region of space now. So they were kind of saying it's like you take your Total War campaign and now you have 10 campaigns you need to complete. So I don't know how big that's going to be. I feel like they might be overstating how big this is going to be. I feel like conquering like 10 planets is going to be a lot quicker than they kind of surmised it as. And maybe the campaigns are just going to be a lot shorter than regular Total War campaigns. Because honestly, I don't think I like the idea of like 10, 15, 20 campaigns in a row to conquer the universe. I think I'd do like 3 campaigns or 2 campaigns and be like, oh, I'm bored of playing a Space Marines. Let me play someone else. And maybe that's just me, but yeah, if they're as long as regular Total War campaigns, each individually, each like system, I'm gonna find that very hard to enjoy. But maybe I won't. Again, depends on the length. I think they might be overstating how long it's actually gonna be. And again, that's something we're going to have to wait to find out. Sorry, a fly just flew by me and I tried to catch it. He's like, hey, have to do this in one take. Next, we have battles. Buildings can be destroyed, as stated earlier. It seems like tanks can crash into them and destroy them. They did mention a little bit about cover, but didn't get overly into it. So maybe there's going to be cover. I would hope so. With the way the game's going to play and shooting and stuff, you would hope there'd be some semblance of cover going on. Psychers are in the game, which I think people expected, but it was nice to just get a bit more of a confirmation on it. Reinforcements, key parts of battles. They said really important, different for each army. So like obviously Space Marines, drop pods. It said Ashnam and Tarim was just going to kind of be more regular Total War. You come in onto the battlefield, but it's more like you're coming in to support the army. So it's not like where I come on and I'm waiting for my 20 units to come on and support me. It's more like they'll be like, and they're just going to arrive just in time. Don't know how that mechanic is going to work, but interesting to see it. They said the orcs would have some sort of like, they have some sort of ability to teleport. So again, that'll be cool to see. And then Webway for the Aldari. So that seems fine. They said battles will be less focused on just killing the enemy army and more about completing objectives. So you might have to capture like a gun or something, some orbital bombardment gun or something like that. They didn't give too many objective examples, so I don't have much to run with there. But again, the battles seem more like you're focused on capturing things. To me, that's not any different than going to capture a region in a siege. I kind of prefer just going and murdering the enemy army, to be honest. Maybe this will be interesting. Maybe I'll like it, but sometimes, and I will state later on my concerns with this game, and I'll just say it quickly, I don't want them to get too far away from what Total War is either. I understand they're venturing into a very, very different style of a franchise, but I hope they don't lose the magic that is Total War along the journey to that. Finally, you can join forces mid-battle. So it seems like the Space Marines, and I only gave this as an example, the Space Marines will sort of show up and join the Astra Militarum, which is why I said earlier, this whole 3.5 factions, it doesn't really seem to me like there's 4 factions. It seems like if I'm playing Space Marines, I'll be joining the Astra Militarum. If I'm playing Astra Militarum, I'm joining Space Marines. Or maybe vice versa. And I'm like, am I going to be helping the Aldari fight the Orcs? I mean, what's going on here? And this is why I don't think having Astra Militarum and Space Marines as a separate faction and calling them 4 factions works for me at all. I really think, look, it sounds interesting as a concept, but it's just like if you had 10 factions in the game and I was occasionally coming in to help the Astra Militarum, it's very different. Having 4 and all of a sudden I'm playing with half of them. I mean, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the launch of this game and how much content's actually going to be there in terms of playability. Could be wrong, but it's something I'm concerned about. Finally, we have something that I think will excite anyone. I put up some shorts and had video up already, kind of speaking about this a little bit. Customization, lots of customization options for units. Both looks, like how the unit looks, especially for Space Marines. They said like you can literally edit everything down to the shoulder pads, knee pads, everything. But also the weapons. Like, do I want to play as a Salamander style army where we're all flamethrowers? And it's going to affect how your game actually plays and how your army actually plays on the field. So that will be really, really interesting to see. I still hope, and they didn't really give us if the core factions were going to be here or not. I've stated this before, like the Salamanders own a section of space. The Ultramarines own a section of space. They need to make it clear, if I play Ultramarines, do I start in that section of space? Because they're not doing that. And I'm a bit worried because I'm like, I don't want to play the Ultramarines and be in a completely wrong section of space because it takes me out of the game. And maybe for some people it won't. And of course I'll still enjoy the game, but it doesn't seem like hard work to me to be like, this is what the Blood Angels own. Like, I don't just want to. They seem to be taking all the factions and playing them at their base elements, going, this is the Space Marines, this is the Astra Militarum, this is the Aldari, this is the Orcs. But they all have their own sub-factions within them. And you can't just ignore that. And they keep going, we want to do Warhammer, we want to do Warhammer 40K justice. Well, I need to see, and I think people need to see, that you've got the Black Templars, you've got the Space Wolves as a faction to play. I don't want to have to pay for a DLC to play as the Space Wolves. I'm sure I will, because this game looks like it's going to have about 50 DLCs, and I'm really frustrated by the idea of this, especially because I know they're going to be overpriced with how DLCs have been going recently for games across the board. I'm just really concerned with this, of like, you can tell me my playstyle is going to be unique and I'm going to pick my playstyle, but what if I just want to play the Space Wolves? What if I just want to play Black Templar? Is that an option? They've stated that you can play as the base Space Marine factions, but who can you play as? They haven't stated it, and it's just been very vague, and I am worried. And I am sorry to be dragging this on, but I do have concerns after watching this interview. Not just with the chairs, just in general. I feel like I just feel like there's a lot here that's not been said. And of course, they said they're going to update us next year. Hopefully in the summer sometime, or maybe late next year, and we're going to see campaigns and all these things. But I need to see more that playing as the Orcs isn't just playing as the Orcs. Playing as the Space Marines isn't just playing as the Space Marines. I want to play as the Black Templars. I want to play as the Space Wolves. I want to play as the Salamanders. And if that's not an option on launch, I'm going to be pissed off. And I want, like, and it's the same with the Ashram Militarum. I'm trying to think of them in my head. Like, you have the Cadians and you have, and I literally have an Ashram Militarum army. So this is really bad that I'm forgetting. But you know, there's multiple. And same with the Eldari. There's multiple in there. There's multiple sub factions. So they better be playable on launch or some form. Maybe you don't need every single Space Marine. So, you know, I don't need all of them, all 9 of the good Space Marine Primarch factions, the base ones. But I need 3 or 4 of them, or 4 or 5 of them, because that's where the replayability is too, is being able to play as the Blood Angels and then going, oh, that was a fun campaign. Let me hop in as the Salamanders. And maybe I've missed something along the way, but they just really haven't spoken about who's going to be in it. And so I'm a little bit worried. At least they didn't in this interview that I can tell. So, look, I really appreciate anyone for watching. This was a bit of a rant, but when you're watching these sort of developer things, and normally I don't do videos on these channels, I do reviews or I do my thoughts, and I suppose this is my thoughts, but on games I'm really passionate about, and Warhammer 40k is any sort of game I'm very passionate about, very excited for Dawn of War 4 too. I'm going to be passionate, and that's why I've put a lot of probably pressure here on saying all these things that I'm concerned about, because these things need to be addressed before the game comes out, because I am concerned. The 3.5 faction thing is very, very true for me, and I'm very worried that there's not going to be enough replayability in this game from what I'm seeing so far. But hey, look, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and sorry it was a bit of a rant. I only was able to do one take because I have other stuff going on today. But yeah, hope everyone enjoyed, and best of luck, guys.